She took the cash given to her for her family and blew it all. She went nuts during the fender bender and went after them with a screwdriver. And this prison officer couldn't wait to go to work because, well, you'll just have to wait to find out. Let's find out just who else we covered in 2024 that are some of the scummiest people in society in this marathon video. Who are the people we need to kick out of society? Such as this lady who went after a baby? Or this couple who, let's just call it, went a bit too wild at a Mexican restaurant? Or what about this lady who took government money and went on a fancy vacation? Number 7, the $100 debt. In Philadelphia, a shocking incident occurred where Dominique Billups, 28, was arrested following the tragic passing of a 7-month-old infant who was hit by a bullet during an alleged $100 debt over some illegal substances. The crime was caught on camera, showing a woman discharging a firearm at the infant and his parents while swearing at them. Authorities arrived at the scene after receiving reports of a firearm being discharged, but found that the victims had already left for a local hospital. It was there that they learned the infant had been hit in the leg by a round. The violence, as per police, stemmed from a small-scale contraband debt. The parents, worrying about some outstanding warrants, had hurriedly left the scene. The investigation quickly focused on Billups, who was identified and arrested the next day without any trouble. Police said they think she was targeting the baby's father, but accidentally involved the mother and infant, who happened to get caught in the middle. Thankfully, the young victim has since recovered and was released from the hospital, though there's no telling how the trauma of the event might affect the child later on. Billups faces charges of aggravated assault and firearms offenses, reflecting the severity of what she did. There's just so much wrong with this story, isn't there? Like, Billups was literally threatening someone's life over $100? Then she had to take it a step further and go after a baby? Thankfully, everyone is going to be okay, but really, with Billups, it sounds like it's just a matter of time before someone loses their life, because she's crazy. Number 6, the tequila drinking. In Waycross, Georgia, Joe Boyett and Mary Sweat faced legal consequences for their public misbehavior. They were arrested for misdemeanor public indecency after their antics at a local restaurant went viral. Joe and Mary were at the Rodeo Mexican restaurant when they decided to engage in a bizarre act involving a margarita and a funnel. We're sure you guys can figure out which way the tequila went when we say it wasn't in a mouth. This spectacle was captured on video, which then spread rapidly across social media platforms, garnering millions of views. The video's spread was initially unknown to the police until Mary reported the unauthorized sharing of the footage. Upon viewing the content, authorities took immediate action and arrested the couple. Further investigation revealed additional inappropriate behavior captured on camera, including indecent exposure, which only added to their notoriety. Rodeo Mexican restaurant strongly condemned the couple's behavior, saying that it was completely unacceptable. The establishment insisted that it didn't reflect their family-friendly values. They assured the public that any employees involved in the incident would face disciplinary actions and reiterated their commitment to maintaining a high standard of environment for all patrons. It's kind of funny that Mary and Joe acted like fools in public, then complained about the video and got arrested over it. If you don't want a video online of you doing stupid things in public, maybe don't do stupid things in public. That's just our opinion, though. Number 5, indigenous scams. Karima Manji, a Canadian woman, was recently sentenced to 3 years in federal prison for a fraudulent scheme where she falsely claimed her daughters were Inuit to grab over $158,000 in educational benefits. Manji's scheme was uncovered in an Iqaluit courtroom, where it was revealed that she had submitted paperwork claiming that her daughters were born to the late Kitty Noah of Iqaluit and that she was their adoptive mother. Of course, she was lying. The scheme allowed Manji's daughters, Amira and Nadia, to access funds from the Kavivak Association, an organization dedicated to supporting the Inuit community through educational and business funding. Despite Manji's claims being initially approved by Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, known as the NTI, which is the overseeing body of the Nunavut land claim, suspicions soon arose. Justice Mia Manakio of Nunavut, during the sentencing, said that Manji's actions were a clear case of identity fraud after gaining trust and said that the crime was premeditated. So she rejected the lighter sentencing recommendations, insisting that only a prison term would suffice given the severity and premeditation of Manji's fraud. The court ordered Manji to repay the stolen funds, totaling $158,000, of which she had already returned $130,000. The fraud not only financially strained the Inuit organizations, but also cast a shadow over the community's trust and the integrity of their identity verification processes. NTI responded by removing the Amira and Nadia from their enrollment list and has since strengthened their application procedures to prevent similar frauds. Outside the courtroom, Noah, son of Kitty Noah, the deceased woman who was claimed to be the birth mother of Amira and Nadia, expressed relief at the sentencing. He said he was glad that it sent a message to those who thought they could commit identity fraud within Indigenous communities. Aluki Kotirk, president of NTI, voiced concerns about the deeper cultural harm inflicted, saying that the true Inuk identity transcends mere official documentation and lies in culture, kinship, and community ties. Apparently, Manji also had a record that included a fraud conviction while working for a charity, though she had never faced prison time before this case. You'd think she had learned her lesson the first time, right? We guess some people just can't keep their hands out of the cookie jar. Number 4, sharing more than his mind. Andrew Cobb, a 54-year-old man from Miami, Florida, was charged with aggravated battery causing great bodily harm after an incident where he struck a cyclist with a water bottle. Apparently, he was out jogging one morning and was fed up with sharing the bike-only lane with people actually on bikes, which makes total sense. Maria Galajulio, the 56-year-old victim, was cycling when Cobb, who was jogging in the same lane, threw a water bottle at her face. This caused Galajulio to fall off her bike, resulting in severe injuries, including cuts, bruises, and stitches required on her knee. Cobb immediately fled the scene as witnesses began to gather and call for police assistance. He was arrested on the following Monday. At the time of the incident, Cobb, a divorced father, was living in a $430,000 luxury condo in Miami, known for its extensive amenities like a pool and gym. His financial standing was further highlighted by his ex-wife owning a $1.9 million home in Manhattan Beach, California. Galajulio was hospitalized and voiced her distress over social media, sharing images of her injuries and expressing disbelief, the callousness of the act. Her posts garnered considerable community support, with most people discussing the need for respectful sharing of public spaces. Cobb's actions, of course, led to immediate legal consequences and public scrutiny. His previous marriage details, including a recent divorce and shared custody of an 18-year-old daughter, also surfaced, painting a complex picture of his personal life juxtaposed against his public offense. The really stupid thing about this is that Cobb was literally jogging in a lane that was designated as being for bikes only. When he was asked why he threw the bottle, he said he had been hit by plenty of cyclists in the past and was fed up with them not sharing the road. That's like getting mad at a zoo because you climbed in the tiger pen and got mauled. Obviously, to not get hit by a bike, don't jog in the bikes only lane. Number 3, the smuggling nurse. Yasmin Talbot, a 48-year-old nurse at Nassau County Correctional Center in Long Island, faced serious charges after allegedly smuggling a weapon into the jail. As the second highest ranking nurse, Talbot was indicted for using her position to provide a ceramic blade and sensitive information about inmate locations to Christopher Wright, an inmate with whom she had an unauthorized relationship. This breach of security was revealed when guards discovered Wright in possession of the exact model of the blade Talbot had ordered and delivered. Prosecutors detailed how Talbot's actions extended beyond just smuggling weapons. She also manipulated inmate records to help Wright identify the location of specific inmates, compromising the safety of both inmates and jail staff. The seriousness of her actions led to such charges as falsifying business records and conspiracy. Talbot pleaded not guilty, but the situation was complicated by a previous plea agreement she had violated, related to an unrelated charge. The authorities took immediate action, with Talbot being arrested and suspended from her job. Yasmin Talbot's previous plea agreement was related to a charge of aggravated driving while intoxicated with a child, which occurred back in October of 2022. She pleaded guilty and agreed to a 1-year probation, 6 months of alcohol monitoring, and community service. Part of her agreement also stipulated that any new arrest would constitute a violation of this plea deal. A lot of corrupt stuff seems to happen with prison staff, doesn't it? You'd think they'd be a little more cautious with some of their hires. Number 2, corrupting minors. Misty Roberts, former mayor of DeRidder, Louisiana, faced serious charges following her abrupt resignation. Roberts was charged with some pretty heavy stuff involving a minor and contributing to the delinquency of juveniles. The investigation into the 42-year-old, who was serving her second term, was prompted by a complaint investigated by the Louisiana State Police. Interviews with 2 juveniles revealed that Roberts had engaged in relations with one of them while in office. A warrant was issued, and Roberts surrendered to the police, being booked and released on a $75,000 bond within just over an hour. Despite the charges, Roberts' attorney asserted her innocence and criticized the lack of direct communication with her prior to the arrest. He emphasized the importance of the presumption of innocence in the justice system, which is, it's never a good sign when you have to keep saying that you're innocent until proven guilty, right? Roberts announced a 2-week leave from her office on the same day the investigation started, only to resign the following day. She expressed her long-standing passion for DeRitter and the relationships built during her tenure, but stated the need to adjust her focus and priorities. Yeah, no kidding. Number 1. Blowing taxpayer money fast. Canthea Miller, a 27-year-old mother of 3 from Washington, D.C., openly admitted to spending nearly $11,000 from a taxpayer-funded assistance program on a lavish 5-day trip to Miami. She indulged in a lifestyle far removed from her usual financial constraints, funded by the Strong Families, Strong Future pilot program aimed at aiding families around the poverty line. Miller opted for a $10,800 lump sum from the program instead of monthly installments of $900. With this substantial amount, she and her family enjoyed new clothes, fancy dinners, and a tour of Miami's most expansive mansions, which she believed would inspire her children towards future wealth. Not only did Miller splurge on leisure, but she also used some of the remaining funds on essentials, like bills and a used car. During the trip, Miller didn't hold back. She invested over $6,000 into the vacation, ensuring her children donned new outfits daily, and even spent $180 on a makeover to escape the look of a working, stressed mom. Her expenditures included steak dinners and new gadgets for the kids, which was vastly different from her life in a subsidized apartment, where she struggled to cover even basic expenses like food and rent. Upon returning, Miller expressed no regrets. She believed the experience taught her children valuable lessons about what hard work could achieve. Additionally, she set up a savings account with a modest goal of maintaining a $50 balance, a sign of her newfound financial awareness. Looking forward, Miller is optimistic about a new job opportunity paying $30 an hour, which she credits to the confidence gained from the program. While Miller used the program to provide an unforgettable experience for her family, other participants chose a more conservative path, focusing on debt repayment and savings. So what do you think about this? On one hand, those funds clearly weren't meant to be used in the way that Miller used them, so it's pretty easy to see that she was just using the program and having fun. We're sure she had some debt that needed clearing, doesn't everyone? And she could have been using that money to get ahead on rent, so there were probably better ways to spend it. On the other hand, it seems like Miller took some good lessons away from her experience, got a decent job, and gave her kids something tangible they could strive for. They were struggling with just basics, which means the type of vacation they had isn't an experience they likely ever would have had, not to mention all the stuff they could have never afforded. If you've ever been down the road of barely making it month to month, the people relying on you, you know how stressful that life can be. Think we need to kick her out? Who are the people we'd love to kick out of society? Let's find out. Starting with number 6, a few loose screws. Video footage caught Ackland Biamugisha allegedly attempting to go after 2 men with a screwdriver after a car crash. Apparently, she's got a couple screws loose. Oop. The accident happened in the early hours of the morning in Miami. Footage showed Biamugisha's black BMW stopped on the road, partially blocking the right lane. Then, a white Toyota RAV4 collided with the vehicle, hitting the back of Biamugisha's BMW. So, the father of the Toyota driver shows up to help his son. But for some reason, Biamugisha claimed the father yelled at her before grabbing her and pulling her hair. Whether he did or not is up for debate. But whatever happened, it caused Biamugisha to reach into the Toyota and grab a screwdriver and a bottle of Windex, spraying it at the father and son's faces, and not in a helpful way to clean their eyeballs. She was mad. Then she charged towards them with the screwdriver and really tried going after them. Biamugisha's friend attempted to calm her down by walking her away from the scene, but as it turned out, it wasn't very effective, as she started screaming at him for stopping her. Biamugisha's former co-workers were shocked by the incident and couldn't believe she could get so angry. After watching the meltdown on video, it was nearly impossible to believe she was the same woman with 2 healthcare master's degrees from the University of Miami. Her LinkedIn profile shows she spent most of her career in healthcare and public service as well. However, her Instagram posts and OnlyFans profile are anything but professional. According to her records, she was cited 3 times in the past for traffic infractions and flaunted her traffic tickets. She explained in an Instagram post that the charges were dropped, but it's hard to know if she was telling the truth. It sounds to us like Ackland got sucked into the dark side of life in Miami, and judging from her IG and OF posts, she's basically throwing away all that work she did getting her 2 master's degrees. At least she has 2 masters to fall back on when her OF career inevitably fails. Number 5. Inappropriate contact. New Jersey teacher Julie Rizzatello resigned from her position after accusations of inappropriate behavior with a student. Rizzatello taught 9th grade SAT prep and English, having been hired by Wall Township Public Schools in 2013. 36-year-old Rizzatello had multiple intimate encounters with an 18-year-old student. They met in his car, and she sent him numerous scandalous photos. She might have thought her actions were going unnoticed, but in July of 2024, she realized that the authorities were onto her. So Rizzatello contacted the student and told him to delete all their communication on his phone. But someone from the school system where Rizzatello taught contacted the local township detective bureau to report a possible inappropriate intimate relationship between the teacher and her former student, and she was arrested the following day. The complaint said that the pair's relationship started in April 2024 with Rizzatello's inappropriate advances towards the victim. Things had escalated into even more intimate relations by the end of May. The victim later told police they had intimate moments on numerous occasions. He allowed law enforcement to check his cell phone, and officers discovered all of the conversations the teacher and former student had and the risque pictures Rizzatello sent him. He admitted discussing the relationship with several friends, some of whom came forward as witnesses to detail their knowledge of Rizzatello's actions. According to criminal complaints, the victim, who was a former student at the high school where she taught, was between the ages of 18 and 22 when the crimes occurred. Although he was a legal adult when the relationship started, it was considered a crime because of Rizzatello's status as a teacher. This means that, according to the law, Rizzatello had disciplinary or supervisory power over the victim. As of the release of this video, Rizzatello is still awaiting trial. Let us know in the comments section whether or not you feel the case would be different if the student was 17 years and 10 months old. Number 4. Unsolicited milkshake. Model Victoria Thomas Bowen threw a milkshake at controversial British politician Nigel Farage, known for leading UKIP and the Brexit Party, and for a strong advocacy of the UK's departure from the EU. Now, Thomas Bowen is using her newfound fame to promote her OnlyFans page. Because, of course she is. Farage was leaving a pub when the incident occurred. In the dramatic footage, Thomas Bowen pushes past the crowd gathered around him to fling her McDonald's banana smoothie at the controversial public figure. In response, Farage posted a video on X with the caption, "My milkshake brings all the people to the rally." The incident happened in Thomas Bowen's hometown of Clacton, Essex, which Farage previously called Britain's most patriotic town, but many of the town's residents weren't happy he was there. Thomas Bowen explained that Farage didn't represent anything she believed in or anyone else she knew from the area. Thomas Bowen previously voiced her support for Farage's political rival, Jeremy Corbyn, on Facebook and called for people to boycott Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee. However, her family's politics were better aligned with Farage's, and they were extremely upset with her actions. However, others disagreed, with many praising her online for her actions. As a follow-up to the incident, she posted a provocative picture of herself dressed in underwear and sports socks, along with a link to her OnlyFans website and the words to the song Milkshake. Farage later said that the milkshake incident freaked him out because he didn't know what had been thrown at him when it hit his face, which is understandable. It was similar to a 2019 incident when another protester threw a drink at him, and the politician claimed he was dealing with these situations because of the efforts he made to meet the public. It's weird that we live in a time where anytime there's a large gathering of people, there's always someone interested in trying to self-promote, right? Like, there's always some idiot TikToker somewhere trying to pull a prank to get views, or some chick trying to promote her OnlyFans by acting like a fool. It happens so often that it's almost normal. Number 3. Quitting like a boss. Texas security guard Percy Payne quit his job after a heated argument with his boss. Typically, these types of conversations where someone quits after an argument happen behind closed doors. This one happened on live TV. Payne was stationed at a private underground garage in Austin. One day, during his shift, he encountered 2 young guys on scooters trying to break into his car. The 2 suspects allegedly broke into the garage through a stuck-open door. Payne noticed the pair scooting around and followed them, finding them standing near his vehicle. When he caught up to them, one of the suspects was at the vehicle's driver's door and the other was keeping a lookout. When they spotted Payne, the two young men ran toward a security gate before one of them tried to run the security guard over with his scooter. That's when the situation escalated. One of the guys pulled a screwdriver from his pocket and then went after Payne. So, rather than risk injury, Payne just let them go, which was the right move. After the guy fled, Payne called 911 and told the dispatcher he needed a police officer to come out to the scene. However, despite explaining that he had just been in a dangerous confrontation, the dispatcher refused to send police since suspects didn't actually steal anything. So Payne hung up and called 911 again. This time, he spoke to a different dispatcher who was far more sympathetic and apologized. A police officer arrived on the scene and said the case should have been an emergency case as the department considered the incident severe. Payne somehow ended up talking about the incident during a live television interview. Apparently, someone called the local news. Payne's manager then confronted him about speaking on camera while he was on the clock, which seems like a really weird time to take a stand on something like that. But whatever. Although the supervisor expressed sympathy for what happened to Payne, they were more interested in explaining to him that he wasn't allowed to do interviews in his work uniform. Live on TV really isn't the time to enforce some work policy, right? But as the cameras rolled, the supervisor demanded that Payne remove his uniform. Of course, Payne refused, explaining that the interview was the only way for him to get his story out there. However, the confrontation ended with Payne's supervisor telling him the entire incident was his fault, making it clear that all they cared about was the potential bad press they would get from the interview. So Payne took off his work shirt, effectively quitting. Luckily, this guy named Michael Carroll saw the interview, was disgusted by the supervisor's behavior, and hired Payne right away to work in his firearm shop. So at least there's a bit of a happy ending. We're not totally sure why this interview was going to give the company bad press, though. It seems like a security guard preventing damage and theft would bring good press, right? The only bad press would come from the supervisor flipping out on live TV. Number 2. Vehicular tragedy. Video captured drunk driver Stephen Schwally slamming into a nail salon, tragically ending 4 lives and injuring 9 others. The footage showed Schwally's minivan flying over a curb, catching air, then slamming at full speed into Hawaii Nail and Spa, a Long Island nail salon. 4 people lost their lives as a result, including off-duty NYPD cop Emilia Renhack, as well as Jianqi Chen, Yan Zhu, and Macy Zhang. A 12-year-old girl was also among the 9 people injured in the crash. Schwally had a previous DUI charge from 2013 where he struck a mailbox and fled the scene. While the incident was far less destructive, he still caught law enforcement's attention. When officers arrived at the scene, they found him still in the driver's seat. While the keys were in the ignition and the engine was turned on, Schwally was asleep. The outrageous thing about this, since there were a lot of things wrong with this situation, was that some random guy left a neighboring business seconds before the vehicle raced past him, hitting the salon. So he had a front row view of the damage caused by the accident, but apparently couldn't be bothered with it, so he just hopped in his car and left, which is weird, right? The guy didn't even call 911, which is the absolute least he could have done without being inconvenienced. Fortunately, other decent people from the neighboring store ran outside to help after hearing the crash and people screaming, which could be heard in the video clip. Following the July 2024 incident, Schwally was arraigned on driving while intoxicated charges and held on $1 million bail, and at the time of this video is waiting for his court appearance. He admitted to officers that he downed 18 beers in the hours leading up to the fatal crash. We know we say this a lot, but it happens a lot. We need far stiffer penalties for drinking and driving. 4 people lost their lives because Stephen Schwally decided to drink 18 beers and get behind the wheel. Hopefully he gets locked up for a long time. Number 1. The Honey Trap. Letitia Nicola allegedly kidnapped and robbed people who she lured in on dating apps. Apparently, these days, no one can safely date anyone else, right? Helped by her boyfriend, Pedro Goncalves, Nicola set up multiple profiles on dating sites. After matching with her victims online, she arranged to meet them in person at seemingly safe spots. Once the Brazilian couple had their targets right where they wanted them, gang members would come and rob and abduct their lovelorn victims. Nicolao's ex-boyfriend, Mikhail Rodriguez, ran the gang whose members went after targets unless they wired money to their accounts through Brazil's version of Venmo, Pix. Although Nicolau and Rodriguez split up, she still convinced her current boyfriend, Goncalves, to join her ex-partner's gang. The couple used the stolen money to go on elaborate shopping trips, vacations to places such as Dubai and Cancun, and on romantic dinners. Fortunately, Nicolau's online activities finally caught the police's attention. In March of 2023, when she had 20 social media profiles, law enforcement arrested her alongside Rodriguez, Goncalves, and several other suspects. She was placed under house arrest, but that didn't slow down her criminal activity. Nicolau was arrested again in February of 2024 for violating the conditions of her house arrest by continuing to target and lure victims through dating apps, but her lawyer managed to get her released. Then, in June of 2024, Sao Paulo civil police got another arrest warrant and searched the home of Nicolau, shared with Goncalves, where they seized several cell phones, cash, a calculator, and a firearm. The items provided evidence that the couple continued to run their operation, leading to their arrest. The pair were finally placed behind bars. Who are some of the worst people we need to kick out of society? Let's find out, starting with number 6, Jailhouse Bedrock. UK resident Linda De Sousa Abreu, a 31-year-old former prison officer, heavy emphasis on former, wound up at the center of a major scandal. Abreu, originally from Brazil, had already made headlines for her provocative lifestyle. Alongside her husband, Nathan Richardson, she was on a reality TV show where couples explored consensual non-monogamy in a luxury country setting. Their controversial appearances on TV and their racy content on OnlyFans under the alias Linda La Madra were already getting attention. However, that attention took a turn when a video surfaced showing Linda engaging in explicit activities with an inmate at HMP Wandsworth, a prison in London. The footage, videoed on a smuggled-in mobile phone, showed Linda in full uniform performing acts with the inmate while his cellmate recorded the scene. The video spread across social media, showed a TV and piles of clothes in the cramped cell, creating a weird backdrop that didn't exactly hide where they were. The video's release led to immediate action from authorities. Abreu was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office and taken into police custody. The investigation revealed that she had resigned from her position at the prison, probably because she knew that her secret life was about to get exposed. The case brought additional scrutiny to HMP Wandsworth, a prison already under the microscope for various other issues. Reports had been made about problems with overcrowding, high levels of contraband, and inadequate conditions for inmates and staff. Abreu's actions only added fuel to the fire, with critics calling for sweeping reforms to address the systemic issues within the prison. To make matters a little worse, it was revealed that Abreu's partner in the explicit video, Linton Wayreck, was serving time for a significant theft. Linton had been incarcerated for stealing over $82,000 worth of luxury goods from an apartment. His girlfriend, who was 7 months pregnant at the time, faced a crazy amount of stress and health risks due to the public fallout from the video, something obviously very bad for the baby. Abreu's sister, Adriana, also shared her disappointment and frustration. She had warned Abreu not to mix her personal lifestyle with her professional duties because she knew, just like everyone else with a brain, that this was a bad idea. Adriana expressed her concern over the impact on their family and criticized Abreu's choices, believing they had led her down a destructive path. Making a video like that was such a weird and needless thing to do. She was already on TV and able to promote her OF, so pulling a stunt like this seems like there's a whole lot more risk than reward, you know? And considering her open relationship, it probably wouldn't have been difficult to just pretend like she was in a prison. But now she's got a bunch of legal drama and some consequences because she couldn't take her serious job seriously. We're not actually saying she got a job in a prison just to do this, but doesn't it seem like she actually got a job in the prison just to do this? Number 5. Finger licking good. Darius Rochelle Hughes, 29, from Tennessee, was sentenced to 4 years in prison for his role in this story. Hughes, a former Popeyes employee, was involved in a confrontation outside a restaurant that went viral. In the video, Hughes was seen going after 55-year-old Deborah Staggs in the parking lot, and the whole thing started over an argument inside the fast food restaurant over a billing issue, which is just insane. Apparently, Hughes went after Staggs outside over the billing issue and caused some pretty serious injuries that left her with broken bones that required surgery. Following the incident, Hughes was arrested and released on a $20,000 bond. According to some witnesses, apparently Staggs had used some racial slurs during the argument inside the restaurant after being overcharged. Of course, Staggs' attorney denied these allegations, claiming she returned to Popeyes to address the overcharge and was met with hostility. Popeyes' corporate office condemned Hughes' actions as contrary to their standards, which would be weird if their standards allowed for this type of thing. Why do corporations always say that? Anyway, they also said that the franchisee had terminated Hughes following the incident, which was probably a good move. Staggs' injuries required extensive medical attention, and her recovery was pretty difficult due to her age. The incident had drawn quite a lot of public attention due to the viral video and the severity of the injuries, and got Popeyes a little more negative attention. Remember the whole sandwich thing? Like, they were good, but that whole situation got way out of control. Anyway, the case ultimately ended up going to a grand jury where Hughes, Staggs, and another individual, Jateka Miller, faced charges. Miller's case was dismissed after she completed an anger management course, but Staggs' case was scheduled for a jury trial where he ended up 4 years in prison. No doubt what Hughes did to a 55-year-old woman is inexcusable, and he 100% got what he deserved. That dude needed to control himself much better than he did if he was going to be working in the service industry, because, as many of you know, that sort of thing is going to happen. We're not saying he should be okay with it, but working with the public means you're going to be dealing with rude idiots. However, if Staggs did use those slurs, she's been on Earth long enough to know better. There's freedom of speech, of course, but not freedom from consequences of speech. Number 4. Your worst fears about food delivery drivers are true. An apparently hungry delivery driver in Brooklyn got caught on camera snacking on a customer's pizza toppings. The security footage, shared widely online, showed the driver in an elevator helping himself to the pizza he was supposed to deliver. In Brooklyn, a security camera inside an elevator captured a delivery driver taking toppings from a Papa John's pizza while on his way to a customer's apartment. The footage showed the driver pressing the floor button, opening the pizza box, and snacking on the meat and veggie toppings. He then struggles to close the box properly, probably panicking as he was approaching his floor. This incident was shared online by a security guard and quickly went viral, racking up hundreds of thousands of views. The clip apparently confirmed what we all just assume sometimes happens with food delivery. You just know you've had some missing fries before, right? Like, you can just tell that some are gone. Anyway, one TikTok user commented that was exactly why they didn't order delivery. Many viewers also agreed that pizza boxes should be sealed to prevent tampering. Like, a dedicated snack thief is going to see that sticker and be like, the driver who wore a helmet and didn't appear to be in a Papa John's uniform seemed to be working for a third-party delivery service like DoorDash or Uber Eats. Viewers were particularly disgusted that the driver used the same hand to hold his keys while eating the toppings, with the dirty chain dangling over the food, making him snacking on it that much worse. Luckily, a vigilant neighbor who happened to see the driver munching on toppings immediately told the customer, preventing her from ever touching the pizza. We've all wondered if this happens a lot though, right? We've known quite a few delivery drivers in our day, and as far as we know, none of them have ever dipped into the food that they were delivering. Like, maybe they were lying, but it didn't seem like it. Have you ever done delivery driving? Have you ever shared fries with the customer without them knowing? Tell us in the comments below. We promise we won't tell. But seriously, cut that out. Number 3, the blackmailing cop. Detective Constable Gareth Suffling from the UK was sentenced to 3 years for blackmailing a man who visited a lady of the night. This case began when a man found an envelope with photos of himself leaving a motorhome and a note demanding $1,300 or his family would be told about what he was up to. The note signed Light Justice detailed his encounter with the woman and demanded immediate payment, keep silent. So the man went to the police, starting an investigation that led to an unexpected revelation. The man behind the blackmail was a cop. Detective Chief Inspector Jerry Waite and his team were put on the case. They planned a sting operation, convincing the victim to plant the money at a designated drop-off location while surveillance monitored the scene. Strangely, the money wasn't picked up, leading investigators to focus on the woman, Kyrie, and her business partner, Ian. Both denied any involvement in the blackmail case, and the police believed them. And with no immediate leads, the investigation seemed to go cold. But then Waite's team continued to dig deeper, suspecting an insider might be involved. Gareth Suffling, who actually happened to be assigned to his own case, suddenly became the prime suspect. During the sting operation, surveillance footage revealed several bits of odd behavior by Suffling. While monitoring the drop-off point for the blackmail money, Suffling was seen constantly checking his phone and drinking a ton of water, things that would draw the attention of people who are trained to notice that sort of thing. Like, those types of behaviors are normal for teenage girls and guilty criminals. We'll let you draw the comparison. Anyway, Suffling was also seen exhibiting nervous behavior and making repeated unnecessary trips to the bathroom. So Waite ordered his arrest. In an emotional moment captured on camera, Suffling was arrested and broke down in tears. The evidence mounted against him, including pictures of the victim found in Suffling's home and a torn-up copy of the demand letter. Suffling claimed he intended to help the vulnerable woman, but searches on his phone for easy money and how to make crime pay made it sound like he was less interested in helping her and more interested in helping himself. Seriously, what a weird thing to search for as a cop. And we're not master criminals here, but he seriously didn't know how to exploit his position? Like, he had to look that up? Anyway, Suffling was charged with blackmail and misconduct in a public office. He pleaded guilty and was initially sentenced to 18 months, later increased to 3 years on appeal, since his own department felt like that was a bit soft. His colleagues were shocked, as Suffling had recently received a commendation for his work on a high-profile case. The thing is, we don't really care that some dude was getting blackmailed for cheating on his wife with a lady of the night. Sleeping with the dogs means you wake up with the fleas. So it's kind of hard to sympathize with someone that's getting blackmailed for being shady. Law enforcement is a tough and very necessary job, and police are under a lot of scrutiny. So when dirty cops get caught, they make that job even harder and deserve to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Number 2. Don't mess with a Muay Thai girl. Chainarong Maryjan, a 35-year-old from Thailand, got some instant karma after behaving like an idiot. One night, after some partying, Chainarong and his friends stopped at a street restaurant. Chainarong noticed Perploy Saia, a 25-year-old woman, and decided he was going to shoot his shot by clinking his glass with hers and asking for her phone number. When Perploy said thanks, but no thanks, Chainarong responded like a baby, dumping his beer on her head. But there was a critical fact that Chainarong was unaware of. Perploy had been a Muay Thai boxer since she was 13, with a record of 40 wins out of 50 fights. And if you're unaware, carrying a record like that in Thailand is very different than carrying a record like that in the US. The competition is far tougher there than it is here, so this chick is tough. Perploy immediately stood up and challenged Chainarong, shouting, "Fight me if you're so tough." Realizing his mistake, Chainarong tried to leave the scene quickly, heading for his moped. However, Perploy wasn't about to let him off the hook so easily. She followed him outside, letting him know exactly what she thought of him with a few well-placed kicks. Which again, if you've ever experienced a Muay Thai kick, you know that they're no joke, especially if you've never dealt with them before. Perploy's friends rushed out to hold her back, but not before she landed a solid punch. Chainarong, embarrassed and injured, walked away as the crowd looked on. The incident, caught on CCTV, went viral. The local police got involved and fined both individuals. Chainarong was fined for pouring the beer and for the subsequent affray, while Perploy was fined for her role in the conflict. Both paid their fines and apologized to each other at the police station. Despite accepting the fine, Perploy voiced her frustration over being penalized for defending herself. She felt that nobody has the right to humiliate others and advocated for self-defense training for women. Perploy has since retired from professional fighting and now coaches other women in Muay Thai. Chainarong, on the other hand, lost his job at a prestigious hotel as a result of the incident. He expressed regret and apologized for his actions, which had caused the entire confrontation. We don't particularly agree with getting physical as a response, except in certain specific situations. While Chainarong was way out of line, he was clearly no danger to Perploy. She didn't need to go follow him to protect herself, you know? The incident was done and no one was hurt. That said, it doesn't sound like Chainarong got any more than he deserved. But in this specific case, we also don't really have a problem with Perploy stepping up and defending her self-respect and dignity. The dating world is hard and rejection is tough, but we all have to handle it and move on. Being weak and petty isn't attractive to anyone. Number 1. A man in fiancé. Christy Swadling, a 27-year-old fitness influencer, got herself a pretty hefty dose of mocking for a notable spelling error while promoting a fashion brand. In a video on her Instagram, she advertised a sale at the activewear store Keep That Pump. However, her followers were fixated on one glaring mistake. Following a TikTok trend, Christy held up a piece of cardboard declaring she was looking for a man in finance. Unfortunately, she misspelled finance as fiancé, drawing immediate reactions questions from her audience. One follower commented that it baffled them that she not only misspelled it fiance, but also retraced over it multiple times and still didn't realize. Others echoed that sentiment, with another saying that finance isn't a tricky word and that it's spelled how it sounds, and it's not even like the words sound the same. The comments ranged from confusion to mockery, with users posting the word fiance followed by laughing emojis. Despite Christie's request to ignore the mistake, the blunder had already gone viral, and the internet will ignore nothing, especially glaring spelling errors. Just days prior, Christie's fans also voiced concerns about her noticeably changing voice. Known for overcoming an eating disorder and advocating for a healthy lifestyle, Christie's voice had deepened significantly over 5 years, raising questions among her followers. The influencer watchdog account at before.after_influencers pointed out this change by posting videos from April 2019 and March 2024. The difference in her voice was pretty big, with the later video showing a more hoarse and deep tone. Fans speculated about the reasons behind this transformation, with some suggesting natural aging, while others wondered about potential health issues. Influencers are helpful to businesses in selling products and to consumers for unbiased, helpful reviews and information. But obviously, there are plenty of annoying, whiny influencers out there. Many of them seem like a bunch of attention-seeking crybabies who think they're more important than they actually are, and many of them will do anything for views. If you've ever dealt with influencers in person, you know how insanely obnoxious they are. Are we right, Chipotle workers? Who are the people we need to kick out of society? Let's find out. Starting with number 6, coffee versus hammer. Bikini-clad barista Emma Lee smashed an angry customer's windshield with a hammer after he threw iced coffee at her. Sounds like someone should switch to decaf. We'll let you decide who. Lee, owner of A Taste of Heaven Espresso, a drive-thru coffee stand in South Seattle, was working alone one morning when an unnamed customer approached the drive-thru window to throw iced coffee at her. The confrontation began when the customer complained that his 32-ounce coffee and 24-ounce water cost roughly $22, which in fairness is a bit steep. The dumb thing, though, is that the guy was a regular and had complained about the store's prices before. He insisted that he didn't know how much it would cost or that he was being scammed, despite Lee reminding him that the prices were listed. The 23-year-old business owner then said she felt threatened after the man also screamed, spat, and attempted to pry open the drive-thru window. He then got out of his vehicle to throw the iced coffee at her, so in response, Lee pulled out a hammer and smashed his windshield. Lee filed misdemeanor charges against the customer, and the man threatened to take her to small claims court over the cost of his windshield. Lee said she wasn't worried about being brought in front of a judge and explained that she shouldn't be treated differently just because she served coffee while wearing a skimpy outfit. And she's 100% right. But that doesn't always mean that she's not going to be treated differently anyway, unfortunately. She shared surveillance footage of the incident on her Instagram and received a mixed response. Some people praised her for standing up for herself, while others accused her of committing a felony against an angry customer, which, if you've worked with the public, you know this sort of thing happens from time to time. So what do you think? Who was in the wrong here? While the guy's behavior is in no way justifiable, was Lee right for smashing this guy's windshield? Or are they both wrong? Let us know your opinion in the comments below. At the end of the day, it sounds like they both needed to espresso their anger differently. Number 5. Growth is never guaranteed. In 2018, a self-described comedian, actor, and entertainer, Dorian G. Thomas, set off fireworks inside a Florida Dollar Tree store. It sounds like Thomas is the only one who uses those words to describe him, however. Thomas, known as DoGang3X, or maybe just 3X on Instagram, posted pranks on his social media to get likes. On July 4th, 2018, he went into a store with an accomplice and set off some fireworks while the accomplice videoed the entire shebang. After setting off the store's fire alarms, Thomas and his accomplice fled the scene in a black Honda Accord. What a hilarious prank, right? Of course, they were long gone by the time Miami-Dade rescue crews arrived at the scene to extinguish the fireworks. But Thomas's super hilarious prank didn't end there. He then taunted the police on Instagram, inviting them to play hide and seek while they tried to find him, and said he had been hiding from law enforcement since he was 12. What a comedian. The fireworks incident was far from the first prank he videoed. Thomas had posted videos before of himself frantically running into a nail salon and began claiming a man dressed up as Mickey Mouse had gone after him. Then he uploaded another clip where he ran through Miami while someone in a Mickey Mouse costume chased him. Thomas insisted his antics were harmless and he would never put another person in danger. But he obviously means other than when he was setting things on fire inside a store. Like, his pranks are harmless when he's not actually causing property damage and putting people's lives in danger. A month after the Dollar Tree incident, law enforcement arrested him in Los Angeles on charges of first-degree arson and criminal mischief. Judging by his social media activity in 2024, the self-proclaimed prankster and comedian appears to have shown that he still doesn't have a clear idea of what the word prank actually means. Number 4. Back for seconds. Amber Jolly, the manager of Gramercy Boutique in Santa Monica, California, recorded herself confronting an alleged thief who was walking out of her store with stolen merchandise. Not the best idea to chase thieves down since you don't know who these people are or what else they're carrying, but it's hard not to do something when someone is stealing from you, right? With retail theft at an all-time high in California, Jolly was already on high alert when she noticed an unnamed young woman leaving her store, possibly with stolen merchandise in her bag. The video of the incident jumped right in, with Jolly already screaming and trying to rip the alleged thief's tote bag out of her arms. Yelling that the woman had taken a jacket from her store, Jolly ignored the woman's accusations that what Jolly was doing was illegal. Still screaming that the young woman had a jacket from her store, Jolly grabbed the woman's wrist, refusing to let her leave. Eventually, the woman dug into her bag and produced an allegedly stolen light blue jacket, which she dropped on the ground. Jolly was certain the alleged thief still had more merchandise in her bag and demanded that she produce the rest of the stuff she took. So the woman produced a light green jacket that may have also been stolen while lecturing Jolly about not being allowed to touch her. We're saying allegedly here because it's a he said, she said situation, but it seems pretty clear what was going on, and this lady was going to lecture someone else about breaking the law. Jolly was still pretty sure that there was more stuff from her store in the woman's bag and blocked her from leaving. Jolly demanded to look in the woman's bag to see, but the accused criminal blocked her, saying again that it was illegal for her to do so, which is correct, but it's pretty guilty behavior to not just open the bag and clear up any misunderstandings, right? Jolly, sharing the same opinion, refused to back down. After the woman eventually showed the contents of her purse, Jolly yelled at her to never show her face there again and shoved her. The video ended with the young woman walking away from Jolly. Jolly finally called the police, who then told her to contact her insurance company. She told news outlets that she confronted the woman out of concern for her community and for the alleged thief, who she claimed to be worried about. Number 3. The heartless theft. An unidentified thief allegedly stole a special tricycle from a 7-year-old girl with a rare neurological disorder. Yeah, we're all pretty universally disgusted, right? The little girl had used the tricycle to get around her neighborhood and visit nearby parks until security camera footage caught a man stealing it from her family's porch. Her mom, Elizabeth Booth, was understandably upset and spoke out against the thief for taking a special needs child's adaptive tricycle. Booth's daughter, Allie, suffers from a disease that causes epilepsy, dyskinesia, developmental delay, and speech and motor issues. She was also nonverbal and diagnosed with autism. Since Allie had weak lower extremities, she worked closely with physical therapists to help build muscle tone in her legs. The bike was a perfect tool for strengthening Allie's legs so she could improve her running. But these types of bikes are also fairly expensive. Booth purchased her particular bike for $1,700 3 years before the incident and couldn't afford to buy a second one. The security camera footage showed a dark van passing their house and then parking at the corner of the street. A man got out and headed to the family's driveway before grabbing the bike and walking away with it. He threw it into his van and drove off. Booth filed a police report, but the police struggled to identify the man, and as of July 2024, no arrests had been made. There's just so many things upsetting about this story. Porch pirates are already annoying enough as it is, so that's already a strike. But then this dude was straight up stealing something that's obviously for a kid, a special needs kid. Number 2. The Fast and Entitled. Speedy Joe Mullins, a nickname we gave him, the chairman of the Flagler County Commission in Flagler County, Florida, thought his status would get him out of a speeding ticket. Joe Mullins was wrong. In June 2022, Mullins sped past troopers in his red Ferrari, driving over 90 miles an hour. It took 2 patrol cars with their sirens blaring to finally pull him over, and unfortunately for Mullins, a patrol dash cam captured their entire exchange. The trooper told Mullins that he was driving 22 miles per hour over the speed limit, and that he would usually just give him a warning, but the chairman had already received a written warning. Speedy Joe must have places to be, you know? Mullins responded that he ran the county and that he knew how everything worked. He must have been sleeping when they explained the part about following the law, though. The exchange got so heated that the troopers actually threatened Mullins with jail if he stepped out of his car. The troopers completed the paperwork and went on to explain the ticket to him when he berated them for the way they pulled him over, claiming that it was unsafe. One of the troopers responded by asking Mullins if he thought the speed at which he was driving was safe. When the troopers' job was done, they waited for Mullins to leave, but he refused. One of the troopers warned him that he would be committing another violation if he didn't get on his way. The two men then told Mullins that everything was being videoed, to which Mullins responded that it meant that the troopers' driving was being filmed too. However, despite accusing them of conducting themselves in a dangerous manner, the footage didn't show the troopers acting recklessly. After the confrontation, Mullins sent pleas to a Seminole County judge, which he clearly cut and pasted from an almost identical letter he wrote to a Flagler County judge, so much so that he forgot to replace the names of the roads. He pleaded for leniency to avoid points on his license and promised never to speed again. Despite repeatedly claiming that he respected law enforcement, ethics, and the law, his attitude during a traffic stop told a different story, especially when he attempted to use his title to get out of trouble. Mullins ended up getting traffic tickets for speeding and attempting to leverage his position as a county commissioner to avoid penalties. The subsequent media coverage of his ridiculous behavior also contributed to his loss in the Republican primary election for his commissioner seat. This defeat, thankfully, marked the end of his term as a Flagler County commissioner. Number 1. More misguided YouTubers. Johnson LaRose and Charlotte Fisher spent a night hiding inside a Target while videoing content for their YouTube channel. Seriously, it's like anything for views, right? LaRose and Fisher, known as YouTube as Saucy and Honey, chose Target for their social media challenge, which involved hiding inside for 24 hours without getting caught. They titled it their 24-hour overnight challenge in Target and videoed it for their followers. What a creative and exciting YouTube video. The evening began with the two building a fort to hide behind as the store closed. They then waited until the store was empty to roam the aisles, which must have been so exciting to watch. This sounds more like a boring sleepover. However, they didn't even complete the challenge of staying inside the store for the full 24 hours. Instead, they left at around 3 a.m. through an emergency exit, tripping the alarm. Police officers responded to the tripped alarm but found no one inside the building. In the morning, Target employees watched the footage from the night before and saw LaRose and Fisher wandering the store's aisles for hours with their phones out. So they basically look like every other customer walking around during normal business hours. Despite their intrusion, the pair didn't steal anything while they were inside the store, which meant the police had to do a deep investigation to figure out if they were doing something else criminal while they were there. Although law enforcement determined that the couple wasn't planning on causing anybody harm, they still arrested the pair on third-degree criminal trespassing and conspiracy. The pair were released on bail under the terms that they couldn't visit any Pennsylvania Target stores. The couple didn't seem to have ended up with any jail time, as they quickly made more videos and posted them right after the incident, and also had a baby. Can we be done with these dumb challenges that really have no value for society other than getting views? Like, we're not saying that all entertainment has to be in some way beneficial, but most of this stuff is just annoying people desperately trying to get attention. It's getting a little old. Who are the people who should most likely be kicked out of society? Let's find out, starting with number 5, the creepy besties. Rayleigh Greason and Brooklyn Schuler, former employees of a Georgia school district, were indicted for inappropriate relationships with students. These incidents took place between October 2021 and January 2022. Greason was charged with having relationships with 2 male students, while Schuler was charged with 1. The grand jury said that both women should have known their victims were students at the time. Apparently, they were saying they didn't know, which is an excuse with its own set of problems. The two were arrested, booked at Gordon County Jail, and released on bond. If convicted, they face up to 25 years in prison or a fine of $100,000. Greason and Schuler were close friends, each playing a significant role in the other's wedding. Greason was Schuler's maid of honor in 2022, and Schuler was a bridesmaid at Greason's wedding in 2023. Despite these personal connections, their legal troubles have overshadowed their personal milestones. Greason graduated from Calhoun High School in 2019 and Kenshaw State in 2023. She was active on social media, sharing insights on student feedback. Schuler, a level 4 educator, appears to have separated from her husband, who has moved on with a new family. Greason's husband has shown support, quoting a Bible verse about casting the first stone on social media, which is easy for him to do when one of his kids isn't a victim. The indictment didn't specify the students' ages or which school they attended. As of the release of this video, the case is ongoing. It's weird that these two were acting like they didn't know the boys were both students too, as if people are going to believe that they're that unfamiliar with people they're having intimate relationships with. They really couldn't tell that these guys were underage, even though they literally see kids that age every day. Number 4, another deranged teacher. What is it with teachers and their students? Here's another teacher who lost her mind. Rebecca Joins, a 30-year-old teacher, was sentenced to 6.5 years for engaging in inappropriate relationships with 2 schoolboys. Her actions included grooming one of the boys by buying him an extravagant Gucci belt and becoming pregnant by the other while awaiting trial. Jones created a narrative of secrecy, since she knew what she was doing was disgusting, telling her first victim that no one better find out about their illicit encounters. However, one of the boys quickly revealed the situation to a friend over Snapchat, setting the table for the whole thing to get revealed. Joins arranged a secret rendezvous with boy A after school. The two visited Manchester's Trafford Centre, where surveillance footage captured her purchasing that expensive Gucci belt at Selfridges. The relationship escalated when she then drove the boy in her sleek white Audi to her flat in Salford Keys, where they engaged in inappropriate acts. Unfortunately for Joins, word of this escapade spread quickly, leading to her arrest shortly after. Following the incident with boy A, Joins was suspended from her role as a teacher and placed under strict bail conditions, prohibiting her from contacting anyone under 18. But while awaiting trial, she continued to engage in a relationship with another boy, referred to as boy B, who was also a student. This relationship culminated in a revelation where Joins playfully revealed her pregnancy to boy B through a game that concluded with her gifting him a onesie that said "Best Dad," which probably made that teenager so excited. Seriously, what a weirdo. During the court proceedings, the judge, Kate Cornell, discussed the breathtaking arrogance displayed by Joins. She pointed out how Joins had been entrusted with the welfare of these vulnerable boys, yet chose to use her authority for selfish gratification. Joins attempted to frame her actions as misunderstandings or moments of weakness. However, it became clear that she had actively sought out the attention of her young students. The jury was left with a somber reminder that, despite her denial of attraction to teenage boys, she had crossed multiple lines that no educator should ever approach. Boy B, reflecting on his experience, talked about how the event had profoundly affected him, emotionally and mentally. He revealed feeling coerced, manipulated, and ultimately betrayed by someone whom he thought cared for him. At her sentencing, Rebecca Joins appeared with her father, both carrying bags filled with her belongings, a far cry from the lavish gifts she had dumped upon her victims. Judge Cornell's remarks were direct and scathing as she dissected Joins' actions, noting the manipulation and the profound betrayal of trust that had occurred. Joins had taken advantage of her position not only to foster relationships, but to facilitate a narrative that ultimately turned her victims' lives upside down. Number 3, holding hostage. Some guy known only as Alexander was arrested for arranging false 1-star reviews for an Italian restaurant in Thailand after a dispute with the owner. What a baby, right? Alexander, who's from the UK, wanted to use an Italian restaurant in Phuket as a shortcut to his apartment. The restaurant owner reasonably refused since Alexander wasn't a paying customer and they didn't need some random dude walking through the place. In retaliation, Alexander recruited friends to flood the restaurant's online profile with negative reviews, causing its rating to plummet from 4.8 to 3.1 stars. The restaurant owner reported this to the Sakhu police station, claiming the fake reviews hurt both the restaurant's finances and its reputation. The Central Investigation Bureau arrested Alexander at his new apartment in Bangkok. He was charged with entering false computer data likely to cause damage to the general public. Despite denying the charges, Alexander was handed over to authorities for further legal action. In a similar case, an American tourist was arrested in October October 2020 for posting a negative review on a hotel in Phuket. He accused the Sea View Resort of modern-day slavery, leading to his detention under Thailand's strict anti-defamation laws. He later apologized and was released. These cases demonstrate the serious legal repercussions for defamation and false reviews in Thailand. Thailand enforces strict laws against defamation and free speech. These laws aim to protect businesses and individuals from false claims, but can also lead to significant legal consequences for those who violate them. And it's not like Alexander had legitimate gripes with the restaurant, you know? He wasn't posting an honest review and it just happened to be a bad experience. He was throwing a tantrum and getting his little friends involved. Tell us what you think, though. Do you agree with Thailand's strict defamation policies? Was this an overreaction to some fake reviews and Alexander's arrest was uncalled for? Or should there be more protections against fake reviews to stop this kind of thing from happening? Number 2. Porch pirate fight. Shocking security footage captured the moment a couple porch pirates raced to a Pennsylvania man's front door and fought over a package just seconds after a FedEx driver dropped it off. So they're now fighting over who gets to steal the package? We thought this whole porch pirate thing was getting crazy before. Kevin Lara from Reading, Pennsylvania, posted the video online showing the thieves on his porch trying to grab some very expensive AT&T cell phones. In the footage, the FedEx driver is seen walking up the driveway and gently placing the package in front of Lara's door, snapping a photo of the delivery. Suddenly, a white car pulls up in the background. While the driver is still in the driveway, two men, one in a black hoodie and the other in white shorts, jump out of their cars parked in front of the house at the same time and sprint to snatch the package. "Yo!" one of them yells as they wrestle over the box. The man in the hoodie grabs the package first and appears to pull out a weapon, swinging it at the other man, who backs away. The victorious thief takes his loot back to his car while the other man picks up a flower pot and yells at him on the front lawn. The man in the shorts then gets back in his car and both drive away. Lara wrote in a post about how the poor FedEx driver looked understandably freaked out. Lara said he wasn't really worried about the phones, but more so, what if this guy hurt one of his family members who may have been waiting to grab the box? Porch pirates are seriously getting out of control, and it doesn't seem like there's really much that's being done about it, since these guys are literally fighting in some dude's front yard in front of the FedEx driver. Like, you don't do that if you're worried about getting caught, you know? It seems like the best bet these days is to just get your stuff at pickup locations. Sure, it's a little inconvenient, but at least you'll get your stuff. Number 1. The entitled billionaire heiress. Socialite Catherine Asplund caused quite a bit of controversy on social media. Catherine got married to Cabot Asplund, whose family owns Asplund Tree Service in Pennsylvania, and wanted to change her Instagram handle to match her new name. But the handle she wanted, Catherine Asplund, was already taken by another user named Kate. So Catherine decided to message Kate, asking if she could buy the username. Kate explained that selling usernames was against Instagram's rules and politely declined. But Catherine wasn't going to take no for an answer, as if she would have to come up with a plan B like some kind of peasant. So she insisted that buying usernames was common among celebrities and questioned Kate's identity, suggesting that she might not even be a real person named Catherine Asplund. You can guess how well that went. The exchange escalated quickly. Catherine reported Kate to Instagram and even mentioned that her husband had done the same. Catherine was also convinced there couldn't be another Asplund family in the whole of the US and demanded proof of Kate's identity. Kate, who was originally open to considering the request, decided to stand her ground after Catherine's increasingly aggressive messages, like she should. The story went viral after Kate shared their conversation online. Internet users sided with Kate, creating dozens of fake accounts with variations of Catherine Asplund's name to prevent Catherine from getting the username she wanted. It got so out of hand, Catherine finally just deactivated her Instagram account, but eventually returned, though she hasn't posted anything since the incident. Catherine's behavior is the perfect example of that annoying sense of entitlement some people have, similar to those who take up too much space at the gym to film their workouts. Despite being part of a wealthy and influential family, Catherine's attempt to bully her way into getting what she wanted backfired, and she ended up embarrassing herself. And it's not like she earned the family fortune herself, or even worked for it. She literally married a rich guy. Entitled people who come from inherited or marital wealth rank right up there in likability with that foamy white stuff that gets in the corner of someone's mouth while they're talking. Who are the people we need to kick out of society? Let's find out, starting with number 5, calling shots. Stephanie Pedroso allegedly incited a roller skating riot that brought 400 to 500 people to a business parking lot, which is probably the most people that have been to the roller rink since the 70s. Pedroso got super upset with Astroskate for canceling her daughter's 18th birthday party after staff learned the event would be bigger than their venue could accommodate. Astroskate required Pedroso to hire an off-duty deputy for the event, which she failed to do, thus breaching her contract. And not only did Pedroso fail to find security for the event, but she also resold tickets and posted advertisements that indicated the event would be something very different than a kids' party. Her advertisements included a booty contest, which Astroskate's owner, Chris Magnaeus, said they weren't interested in hosting. After learning that the skating rink had canceled her event, Pedroso stormed into the business and flipped out, screaming and cursing at employees. She then started a live video in which she called for people to riot at the business and confront law enforcement, who had already been called. Somehow, roughly 500 people interested in rioting showed up at Astroskate, which is kind of impressive, since getting even 10 people to show up somewhere can be a challenge. The crowd started going berserk and damaged the surrounding businesses, stealing from everywhere they could. Police issued multiple warnings saying the group was trespassing and needed to leave the premises, but nobody listened. Surprising, no one. A 16-year-old girl was allegedly thrown into a local barbershop's glass panel, injuring the girl and resulting in over $1,200 in damages to the store. There was an additional $500 in damages at a nearby 7-Eleven and a grocery store, and bar also had to close due to the riot. Authorities arrested 23 minors and 3 adults. Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister released a statement to state how unacceptable it was to use social media to encourage people to destroy businesses and start a riot. He also stated that Hillsborough County wouldn't tolerate such kind of behavior. Officers also arrested Pedroso, and as of this video, she's awaiting trial. In 2021, the Florida legislature called for stricter penalties for anyone found guilty of starting a riot, and if convicted, she faces up to 5 years in prison. Number 4. Uncontrollable urges. Julie Hoover, a teacher at a Christian high school, was arrested for inappropriate behavior with students twice in one summer. Hoover once worked at Florida's Point of Grace Christian School, where she allegedly twerked on a male student at prom in April 2022. The student told police about Hoover's advances and how she pressured him into drinking alcohol, despite being underage. He said that he was so uncomfortable that other students tried to get between him and his then teacher several times. The student left the dance floor each time she got too close to him, but she wouldn't leave him alone. Hoover was also determined to get him to drink alcohol and forced the straw from her alcoholic drink into his mouth. One of the school's administrators admitted that the teachers had alcohol that night, but claimed that they didn't begin drinking until after the event. While he knew Hoover had a few drinks, he said he wasn't aware of when Hoover started drinking. Multiple witnesses came forward to corroborate the student's story, and officers arrested Hoover over the incident back in September of 2022. The thing was, this was her second arrest related to her inappropriate actions involving students. A few months earlier from this specific incident, she was arrested for exchanging explicit messages with another student. When the student's mother learned what Hoover was doing, she reported the former teacher to the police. Hoover had been exchanging messages with that student for months by the time she was arrested. Hoover also had plans to sneak the student into her home while her husband was at work. She then had a phone call with one of the student's mothers where she admitted that she let the evil in at prom. A school official confirmed that she's no longer employed at Point of Grace Christian High School. It's good that she's gone, but how is she able to do this twice? Number 3. The Hot Chip Challenge Tragedy. 10th grader Harris Wallaba lost his life after performing in Pocky's One Chip Challenge. The challenge called for people to eat the Pocky chip and see how long they could go without drinking water or eating other food. The chip was sold individually in a coffin-shaped box with a warning that it was only for adult consumption and to keep out of reach of children. As the challenge went viral on social media, Wallaba wanted to try it for himself. The problem was that Wallaba tragically had an underlying heart condition that nobody knew about. So he took a bite of the chip, which was loaded with high levels of chili pepper extract, and immediately passed out. The school nurse at Wallaba's school called his mom to say he had fainted after his friend gave him the chip. When he got home, he collapsed again again. So his mother rushed him to the hospital, but it was already too late, as he was DOA. Doctors discovered he had suffered from a heart attack due to a congenital heart defect, exasperated by the insane amounts of capsaicin in the chip. Wallaba was born with an enlarged heart and a myocardial bridge, affecting blood flow. The spiciness of the chip caused significant stimulation to his heart, leading to abnormal blood flow and irregular heartbeats. In response to their son's passing, the family sued Pocky and Hershey, its parent company, although they didn't comment publicly if they were seeking fiscal compensation. Pocky released a comment to express its sadness over the 14-year-old's passing, but also highlighted that the chip's label clearly warned that it wasn't suitable for children or anyone with underlying health conditions. And Wallaba wasn't the only person who got sick from the challenge. Paramedics had to treat 3 high school students in California and 7 in Minnesota after they participated in the challenge in 2022. The chip saw significant sales increases since people started posting videos on social media of themselves or their friends doing the challenge. The clip showed people and sometimes children eating the chips and reacting to the heat. Some gagged, coughed, or even begged for water. Authorities and physicians warned that eating such spicy foods could have tragic unintended consequences. Thankfully, the chip was eventually pulled from shelves. By the way, if you're dealing with spicy stuff, don't drink water. It'll only spread the heat around and make the sensation worse. Instead, drink milk, since milk contains a protein called casein. Casein can bind with capsaicin, the compound in chili peppers that causes the burning sensation, and wash it away. The fat content in milk can also help dissolve capsaicin, providing relief from the heat. But what do you think? Who should we kick out of society? The manufacturer who makes such a dangerous chip, or the family suing the manufacturer, placing the accountability elsewhere, as unfortunate as the circumstances were? Number 2. The despicable couple. Florida authorities got more than they bargained for when they arrested a couple for robbing a hardware store. Charlie Jorge Perez and Jelena Annalise Sepulveda entered a Lowe's home improvement store wearing matching Cookie Monster pajama bottoms. They were acting suspiciously, and when they went to leave, loss prevention officers stopped to question them. Sepulveda responded by spitting on the officers, while Perez flashed a firearm in his waistband and threatened them. The couple was arrested the next day on robbery charges, while law enforcement headed to their home with a search warrant. Officers were immediately overwhelmed with the stench and discovered 4 mixed-breed French bulldogs caged in the couple's bedroom. The dogs seemed to have been locked up for quite some time. They had open sores and were suffering from demodetic mange, a painful skin condition caused by mites burrowing into the skin, leading to severe itching, inflammation, and hair loss. One of the animal's toes was swollen and stuck in the bottom of its cage. A witness told police that they thought the dogs hadn't been outside their cages in 4 months. Officers removed the 4 dogs from their cages and freed the 1 dog's foot. The animals were in poor condition after the rescue, and 2 of them, sadly, couldn't even walk to the animal control van on their own. There were an additional 3 dogs and 3 cats in the couple's living room who appeared to be in better condition. However, animal control took all 10 animals in for treatment due to the poor condition of the French bulldogs. The couple eventually relinquished ownership of their animals because of Perez and Sepulveda's terrible care. Following the search warrants, the couple received additional charges. These 2 are just terrible people who need to be kept away from everyone. Number 1. The vicious beauty queen. Miss Pennsylvania runner-up Victoria Vespico landed a job with the Girl Scouts of America despite sending threats and nasty texts to her rival, Robin Cass-Gurgey. Vespico sent such vicious threats to Cass-Gurgey that a Superior Court judge in Washington, D.C. granted Cass-Gurgey an anti-stalking order against the beauty queen. Despite Judge John McCabe finding that Vespico had committed 15 acts of stalking and menacing threats, she still became a program partner coordinator at Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts in the heart of Pennsylvania's website listed her as a point of contact for Girl Fest at Camp Archibald. The event, planned for October of 2024, would be a place for girls to immerse themselves in activities that highlighted the organization's 4 pillars: life skills, outdoors, entrepreneurship, and STEM. When Vespico was crowned Miss Lancaster County in 2023, she spoke about being a Girl Scout for over 19 years and her promise to make the world a better place. However, an investigation unearthed hundreds of nasty texts she sent to Cass-Gurgey, which pretty clearly contradicts her promises. She made severe physical threats to Cass-Gurgey, her mom, her boyfriend, and her dogs. Vespico even went as far as to say she would burn her rival's house down. Cass-Gurgey qualified for Miss Pennsylvania after she was crowned Miss Susquehanna Valley, but she withdrew over fears fears for her safety. She claimed that the beauty pageant organizer had no plan to keep her safe at the Miss Pennsylvania pageant, despite the nature of the threats that Vespico was sending her. Although Casgurgi stepped down from the competition, Vespico was still able to compete, despite the organizer's awareness that she was the subject of the anti-stalking order. She was crowned second runner-up. Apparently, local directors and the Miss America organization had already received a bunch of complaints about Vespico and the way she bullied and harassed other girls in the competition. When someone broke into Casgurgi's Washington, D.C. apartment and car on the eve of the state title competition held in York, Pennsylvania, she decided it was time to look into pressing criminal charges against Vespico. So Casgurgi then reached out to the Miss Pennsylvania organizers to request assurances that she would be kept safe and separated from Vespico, but never received a response. The board eventually told Casgurgi that it was up to her and Vespico to follow the conditions in the anti-stalking order and dismissed her concerns. When she shared her concerns and the nature of the harassment with local Miss Pennsylvania directors, they also refused to believe that Vespico was capable of sending the messages and told Casgurgi not to talk about it. So while Casgurgi had enough evidence to convince a court that her safety was at risk, the directors somehow still struggled to believe her story. Vespico's messages included comments about how she was better than Casgurgi and that nobody would protect her because they wouldn't believe her if she tried to say anything. Casgurgi ultimately decided to share her story because a change needed to be made. 16 other girls came to her with similar stories about Vespico, but nothing ever came of it. She also accused the organization of victim blaming when she came forward, which it sounds like they did. The Miss America organization made a statement implying that Casgurgi withdrew from the competition because she couldn't provide proof that she was a Pennsylvania resident. It also said that a Washington, D.C. judge ruled that Vespico and Casgurgi were eligible to compete and that the national office went to extensive efforts to ensure Casgurgi would be safe. It's weird that the organization would be so quick to dismiss these types of complaints that have actual evidence to back them up, isn't it? There was no way Casgurgi wasn't going to tell her side of the story, which was bound to make the pageant organizers look bad. So who do we need to kick out of society here? The crazy pageant lady that can't stop menacing everyone and should likely be nowhere near any young people she can influence, or the pageant organizers, who seem to care more about their event than the safety of its contestants? Who are a few of the worst people we'd love to kick out of society? Let's find out, starting with number 7, the bus driver. In Newark, New Jersey, a public transit altercation spiraled out of control when a bus driver, identified as Torin Walker, was arrested following a physical confrontation with a passenger. The incident went down on a crowded bus one Friday afternoon, shocking everyone watching. Torin Walker, while on duty, got himself tangled up in a physical confrontation after a passenger allegedly spat on him. Spitting on someone is a legit insult in pretty much every culture, so it's unsurprising that it triggered a severe reaction from Walker, who subdued the passenger by pinning him down in a seat and then in the bus aisle. The escalation continued as Walker continued going after the passenger with force, using some pretty choice words the entire time. The fracas didn't end until law enforcement finally intervened. Police boarded the stop bus at an intersection, and upon arrival, they discovered Walker still engaged with the unnamed passenger. Since Walker appeared to be the aggressor, he was quickly arrested and charged. However, the passenger faced similar legal repercussions, also getting charged for his initial aggressive act against the driver. Despite the way everything escalated, it was reported that the passenger wasn't seriously hurt. In response to the incident, New Jersey transit officials emphasized their zero-tolerance policy towards any form of physical confrontations against transit employees or patrons. They discussed the serious consequences of such actions, which can include fines, imprisonment, and prohibition from using transit services. So, who do you think needs to be kicked out of society here? We agree that spitting on someone is a pretty serious offense, but do you think it warranted the kind of reaction it got? Do you think that the bus driver should be fired for his role in the altercation? As of the release of this video, the case is still ongoing. Number 6, the dental assistants. 3 employees at Premier Dental Group in Knoxville, Tennessee, got what was coming to them after a video surfaced showing them mocking a cancer patient's private diary. The video, recorded by a colleague, captured 2 female staff members reading the patient's concerns about her radiation treatment options aloud while a male employee sat by, absorbed in his phone. The incident, which took place in the bustling office, was rightly lambasted on social media for the gross violation of privacy. As the footage spread, the dental practice issued an apology, acknowledging the disrespect and unprofessionalism shown towards the patient's medical condition. They described the incident as contrary to their standards of respect and professionalism, which is like, well, we'd hope that would be contrary to their standards. Following an internal review, the 2 women involved were terminated from their positions immediately, while the guy, who didn't participate in reading the diary but sat there like a loaf, somehow kept his job. In addition to this privacy violation, the practice had previously settled a lawsuit where they were accused of unethical behavior towards patients. Allegations included using unqualified dental hygienists and unnecessary treatments, likened to treating patients like cattle to boost profits. This lawsuit concluded with Premier Dental Group agreeing to pay out about $1 million, showing a pattern of very questionable practices at the facility. What we don't get about this whole mess is what could possibly be so funny about a cancer patient's diary. Obviously, grabbing it and reading something clearly meant to be private is wrong. And then to laugh about their concerns about cancer treatments of all things is just weird. It seems like someone in the hiring department needs some assistance of their own, since they're clearly inept. Seriously, it sounds like they'd be better off hiring some reality TV stars. At least then the idiotic drama would be expected. Number 5. Faking disability. New York resident Rink was rolling in controversy after he tried to scam nearly 50 Manhattan stores, including high-end retailers such as Christian Dior. Over a 6-week period, Matatov, who supposedly used a wheelchair, sent threatening letters demanding $50,000 from each business, threatening to sue over their lack of accessibility for the disabled. Matatov, accompanied by a friend who documented these visits, claimed these establishments lacked necessary accommodations such as ramps or elevators. His actions, backed by his attorney, Jeffrey Neiman, initially appeared as a strong push for accessibility rights. However, the fact that Matatov could actually walk without issue hurts all of his crusading. Eyewitness accounts and photographic evidence from the Post exposed Matatov's ability to walk unaided, which he displayed during a surprise visit by a reporter. The backlash, of course, was immediate and severe. Businesses that had been targeted by Matatov and had faced significant financial pressure to settle out of court were pretty upset over his little shakedowns. Legal representatives from affected businesses labeled the lawsuits as extortion and criticized the misuse of the legal system. The situation escalated when several businesses sought to have the lawsuits thrown out and demanded fines against Matatov and Neiman for their fraudulent claims. Amidst growing scrutiny and evidence of his actual physical capabilities, Matatov agreed to drop 2 of his $5 million lawsuits against major retailers. The remaining legal battles continued, with calls for stricter oversight to prevent such exploitation of disability laws in the future. Throughout the ordeal, Matatov lived a relatively modest lifestyle, yet the potential financial gains from his settlements could have supported a far more lavish existence. It's crazy to think that this clown could have possibly won a lot of his lawsuits because it's possible that these businesses weren't actually compliant with regulations. That said, there's a big difference between demanding that a business makes themselves more accessible and attempting to sue these businesses. Number 4. Historic art. In separate events, 2 unnamed people in Europe demonstrated a blatant disregard for historical artifacts, an act that pretty much any reasonable person would be careful not to do. A 39-year-old Spanish man who clearly should have known better got investigated after damaging ancient cave paintings. In the serene Sierra Surdejana mountain range of southern Spain, this unnamed Spanish man tried to improve his social media profile by exploiting the region's ancient cave paintings. Using water to make these artworks that thousands of years old more photogenic, since that's clearly what matters when you're looking at cave paintings, he caused irreversible harm. This act, documented through his Facebook posts, has not only outraged everyone who saw them, but also brought on a thorough investigation by Spain's Guardia Civil, a Spanish law enforcement agency responsible for various public safety duties, including the protection of the country's historical heritage. Parallel to this, Florence witnessed a brazen act of cultural disrespect by an unnamed young German tourist. In an attempt to capture a daring photo, he climbed the protective barrier of the 16th century Fountain of Neptune, a central piece in Piazza della Signoria. His actions, captured on surveillance, led to his detention by local authorities, illustrating a growing concern over the preservation of publicly accessible art. Both incidents show the annoying trend of dumb people compromising significant cultural artifacts for social media posts of all things. Social media is fun and all, but these influencers' selfish, constant need for status and likes shouldn't come at the expense of making things worse for everyone else. Number 3, the cowardly act. In the Bronx, William Bollinger and Tammy Moore were charged for going after an 82-year-old home health aide. The suspects are said to have physically harmed the elderly woman without provocation, ultimately leaving her with severe injuries. Both suspects, aged 32 with a history of previous arrests, 8 for Ballinger and 10 for Moore, were suggested by prosecutors to be held on either $30,000 cash bail or $90,000 bond. However, judges Eugene Bowen and Craig Ortner opted for supervised release instead because, well, we don't know. This seems stupid to us too. This decision has sparked considerable outrage among the victim's family and community members as well, since they're all concerned about the potential risks the suspects pose after they were set free. The victim, who was recycling some bottles at the time of the incident, suffered multiple injuries which led to her being hospitalized at Jacobi Medical Center, where she was listed as being in stable condition. The family, unaware initially of her whereabouts, were scared out of their minds until she was located at the hospital. The judge's choice to release the suspects was defended by the state's court administration, explaining that their discretion under New York law to make these types of decisions based on the defendant's flight risk, and apparently nothing else. However, this rationale hasn't eased the minds of the community or the police union, which has previously criticized Judge Bowen's decisions in similar cases. As of the release of this video, the suspects await their next court date, and the debate continues over the balance between judicial discretion and public safety. It certainly seems that not many people are worried that they're going to run away, right? It's clearly more that these two people just need to be kept away from everyone else and deserve to be locked up if they are indeed guilty. This lady was still helping take care of others at the age of 82, and these two took that away from her for no reason. Number 2, the truck driver. Dylan Fogel, a 25-year-old from North Carolina, got hit with serious charges after his inexcusable actions that occurred outside a Tampa Bay gentleman's club. Fogel, reportedly involved in a dispute inside the Emperor's Gentlemen's Club, was kicked out along with his friend Anthony Metelsky for some inappropriate behavior. This altercation escalated tragically when Fogel, who was driving a semi-truck, crashed into a group outside the club, resulting in the tragic passing of 44-year-old Giovanni Soto and serious injuries to 2 others. In the early hours of that particular morning, security footage showed Metelsky becoming aggressive with the club staff. Shortly after, Fogel drove his truck into a crowd waiting outside. Witnesses suggested that Fogel might have been targeting his friend amid the chaos, which he wasn't. But before the crash, Fogel texted a childhood friend implying his awareness of impending doom, with messages such as goodbye and acknowledging his likely prison sentence. After the crash, Fogel showed signs of alcohol impairment and admitted to police he was behind the wheel, though he claimed the truck's accelerator malfunctioned. However, his inability to provide an actual reason for not avoiding the crowd raised suspicions about how much of this was an accident. Fogel's actions contrast sharply with his background. He was described by friends as someone who lived a bit on the wild side, and that his job driving semi-trucks was his self-proclaimed dream career. The incident left the community and Fogel's friends struggling to reconcile the man they knew with his actions that night. Number 1. The Spoiled Rich Kid. Florida teen Luis Berrios got slapped with multiple charges following incidents involving his unruly behavior on his father's boat. The arrest was catalyzed by his disruptive antics at the Sunset Grill, where he and his friends harassed staff, escalating to a confrontation with law enforcement. Berrios, known for his opulent lifestyle, showcased on Instagram to his followers, was documented by police body cam footage during a particularly chaotic scene. As the officers approached his father's yacht in Marathon, Florida, they demanded he halt the boat and surrender. Ignoring warnings, Berrios antagonized the officers, claiming he had anxiety and paranoia as excuses for his refusal to comply. His continued defiance escalated to threats against the police, only adding to his charges. Local residents and the responding officers described Berrios as a constant problem in the community, talking about his entitled behavior and frequent disturbances. Apparently, Berrios' pattern of behavior wasn't exactly new in the area. Neighbors expressed frustration, describing him as a, quote, spoiled brat, despite his father's hardworking reputation. Berrios was eventually arrested and faced charges, including possession of alcohol by a minor, disorderly conduct, and fleeing police by boat. His behavior remained defiant at the police station, where he continued to make threats. At one point, he shouted that his dad's rich, and of course, emphasized with the curse word. Obviously, that didn't impress any officers, although one of them did say, "Congratulations," sarcastically. The incident, which was captured on body cameras and widely viewed on YouTube, quickly overshadowed Berrios' social media influence, drawing public outrage and criticism. Viewers condemned his actions, foreseeing a grim future if his behavior continued unchecked. Probably one of the most annoying things about this story is that even though this kid was arrested and charged, it's not likely his behavior will change. Until his enablers stop his annoying behavior, the rest of society will just have to continue to have to put up with the entitlement. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather have: $4,000 a week for life or $2 million cash right now.